Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast from Born Without Boundaries Tarot here on Astrology Motivation. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. What we're going to do here is discuss the major astrology factors for this week. By factors, I mean the major astrology transits and aspects for this week. What energy that they'll generate and how you can expect it to impact your life. I'll give you a few different suggested examples of how they might play out. But this is a general reading for all zodiac signs. So it's speaking of the general energy created by the movement and relationships of the planets. My name is Michelle. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. It's really nice to meet you all. I always encourage you to please leave comments below so I can read how the energy is impacting you. I'm always interested and I would love to know. So feel free to leave the comments below. This is Astrology Motivation, the second of my two YouTube channels. The premier YouTube channel is Born Without Boundaries Tarot, where I upload 12 videos every single week at least, which is the 12 main zodiac sign readings. So I hope you guys will join me over there as well. There's a lot going on this week. It's a big week for transits, and there's a full moon. So of course full moons happen once a month, but anytime there is a full moon, since the moon is so close to us, it's our nearest companion in the sky. It's just something to very, very much pay attention to, but not only the fact that it's a full moon, but what's happening around it. And we're gonna get into discussing that. We're also gonna get into discussing what's happening with the sun and why it's under so much pressure this week, and why there can be so much emotional tension and energy that's floating around in the air. This week is pretty emotionally intensive. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily explosive. In fact, I think we have two aspects that are going on in the sky that actually help it be a lot less dramatic than it could be. And we're gonna discuss that as well. And believe me, it is something to be grateful for, because if these two things weren't actually having any impact, this could be one of the most emotional and destructive moons of the year, but it's not, because of these two kind of life-saving factors. So we're going to get into discussing that as well. So pull up a chair, guys, and let's get ready. Let's dive into it. I'm going to start with the first major transits that are happening this week. Major transits are both Mercury first on Tuesday, December 6th. Yeah, I'm reading it as my little notepad right here. Both Mercury on December 6th, and then later on in the week, Venus on December 10th are transiting from Sagittarius into Capricorn. Much different energy. Completely different energy. You go from being open and free and daring and progressive and forward and hopeful and progressive to stable, to constant, to not only career but progress oriented, but not progress as in impulsivity, progress as in I'm committing myself to making this happen, and this is how I'm going to do it. So it could be a lot of commitment that's coming up in this coming energy. And we're going to discuss what it means for Mercury to go into Capricorn and what it means for Venus to go into Capricorn. I would normally say that it's a lot less exciting and a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging, but also a lot more grown up. It's like it's a mature energy. It's not the sense of, getting things done and progress you make when you're 16 and you throw yourself into something. This is how you dig your heels in and decide, I'm moving forward and I'm making some real commitments when you're 35, when you're 40. So it's just sort of the mentality that is changing for these two inner planets that are constantly impacting us. Mercury will be going into retrograde at the very end of December, around December 29th or 30th. So we're going to start to feel some impact of Mercury slowing down as well. You start to see not necessarily the shadow period right now, but you could start to feel some of the communication errors, or just in some ways not wanting to hear the same old bullshit. We'll get deeper into that as well. And then we have Venus moving into Capricorn. Let's discuss it. Let's start. Tuesday, December 6th. I'm sorry. And then, of course, we have the full moon on December 7th. Now, we have a full moon every single month. And every single month, the full moon is is opposite the sun. That's what the full moon is. So, you know, from now on, you'll know that if your sun sign and your moon sign are in the exact opposite signs, then you were born at or around a full moon. And if your moon sign is in the same sign as your sun sign, then you will know that you were born at or around a new moon. And that's just how it works. So why is this one particularly special? Because it's conjunct Mars. Yeah, it's the watery, cool moon conjunct the hot, passionate Mars. So things can get extraordinarily steamy. They're always going to get emotional. They're always going to be reactionary. This conjunction doesn't usually speak to a lot of self-control. And it could be going a little bit haywire and crazy. And that's why around the full moon, which is, associated with lunacy, you could say things that are just emotional since Mars and the moon are both in Gemini. You could speak off the cusp or say crazy things, sort of impulsive things. You could really behave that way right now. Especially around the 6th, 7th, and 8th, which is when the full moon will really be ripe and be impacting us. But the good thing is, and I told you I would tell you, there's a savior here in that Mars is in retrograde. And Mars in retrograde is far more thoughtful, far more like slow moving. It doesn't have as much energy. Now, the fact that it's in opposition to the sun, and Mars has been in opposition to the sun for a while now, is taking energy out of us. And that's why I've been telling you, don't push, because you could overdo it and really get sick, or really have to sort of pay the piper for actions or impulsivities in the past. And that could be what we are addressing around this full moon. Information coming out about different kinds of actions that we've taken or different ways we've been impulsive. But because it is an informative moon, Gemini rules education. It really is very steeped in learning. There could also be fantastic opportunities to learn how we've sort of disregarded ourselves and not taken care of ourselves. So let's talk a little bit more about that just a little bit later. I want to go over December 6th, which is our first major transit, and that is Mercury transiting into Capricorn. Ironically, the moon is transiting into Gemini on this day as well. So we have a double whammy transit. So what that means is there's a huge energy. I describe this to you guys a lot as the pebble hitting the pond and it's sending out ripples. Well, this is the day when the pebble hits the pond, and essentially, since there's two pebbles hitting at once, it's a bigger ripple impact. Now, the move of Mercury from Mercury into Sagittarius, where it's very sort of fun and playful and foreign language, learning different things. In Capricorn, it's almost settling down into, I know what I want, I know what I like, I know what I want to think about, and I know what my priorities are. I'm going to dig down and commit myself. So as soon as that hits, Mercury goes into Capricorn, it's almost like we become a lot more focused on what our priorities are. Mercury in Capricorn doesn't flourish or speak in big romantic or poetic tones. Instead, it's very direct and it's very authoritative, and it's very good at making up its mind and making commitments. So Mercury in Capricorn is a great time to be able to read through contracts, sign contracts, want to get people to commit to you, thinking long term, as well as speaking in very mature settings, right? Even speaking in a lot of ways to authority figures. This could be the time when you decide to go ahead and get a new job, and sign those contracts, or somebody is willing to make an offer to you, or you're talking business. This is a great time for talking business, or at least looking into things and learning. Now, then we have our full moon, and our full moon, now, I'm sorry, so Gemini, the moon moves into Gemini at this time. It's not full yet. It gets full on December 7th, the next day. But the fact that that's happening at the same time is telling me that there is a huge curiosity and willingness to learn. When the moon is in Gemini, it's very much interested in balancing out dualistic emotions, things that we have been struggling with because we see both sides of it and we haven't found a way to connect them. So this is a sense of working through those dualistic emotions. So I'm saying it's almost like, what do we commit ourselves to? We want two different things. What's more important to us? And so there could be a lot of emotional turmoil that we're going through. Now, what the moon in Gemini really thrives on is freedom. So there's sort of a tension here with, we want obligation, we're thinking about commitment, but simultaneously we want freedom. Really what we want is the space and no pressure so that we can think through things and be able to understand, finally get to the conclusion of what's really important to us and what's not. And that's why I think if Mars was direct, this would be very reactionary energy, and it would be, we could say things we don't mean. There would be a lot more like relationships that were ending, because I'm going to tell you there's other aspects going on that make that tense too. A lot more relationships ending, like a lot more kind of budgets going kaboom. There's just could be a lot tense, but more tense. But since Mars has been in retrograde for quite some time now, it's kind of gotten used to its slower pace, and it's a little bit more laid back and relaxed than normal. Thank God, because that makes it a little bit more, it's almost like it buys us more time, and we have the ability to think things through a little bit more and not take things so personally. Now, the beautiful gift this week is that Saturn is also trine to Mars, which means it'll be trine to the Moon-Mars conjunction, which means it'll be giving us almost like an authoritative, solid kind of discipline that we really need to be able to get through these crunchy, crazy times. Could even be a great time to take advice, get advice, give advice. This is a great time for talk therapy, for getting into therapy, looking for an authority figure, somebody could help you sort out and put into order all the chaos and craziness that is assimilating in your mind. The full moon is still going to be a little bit crazy, and I think there's going to be a lot of discussions that may sit with people for a while. We'll remember what people say to us around this time. We'll remember how it made us feel. So it's very particular. It's very important that you watch what you say. It's going to be very challenging. Jupiter is square to Mercury and Venus. Jupiter being square to Mercury and Venus is kind of like gonna make us bolder, gonna make us want to expand and grow more quickly. But the stabilizing presence of Saturn could also just take us down a little bit and say, hey, you know what? We can't really grow that fast. It's a good idea. We want these things. I think the squares to Jupiter are going to help us really be able to understand what it is we really want and what it is going to make us really happy. And so the painful thing could be letting go of those aspects of ourselves that we've grown comfortable with, but at the same time, they're making us sick. They're making us unhealthy. Neptune is actually squared to the Sun, which makes it a primary component in this full moon. Now, Neptune square the Sun is delusions about yourself. It can even be fogginess about yourself, like actual sickness. So please watch your health around this time, especially if you are Leo, especially if you are Pisces. There's just a sense of injury that could be coming up, maybe old injury since Mars is in retrograde. There's a lack of energy. There's a huge concentration then on the Sun, square to Neptune and opposite Mars retrograde, that it's draining the Sun. So especially Leos, watch out for being drained, and pushing yourself too hard could really get you sick or damage you. And there could be different aspects of your health coming out now that you're going to have to deal with that have been building up over time. Just an FYI. The good thing is that by the end of the week, Mars will no longer be square to the sun, and the sun will be in a little bit more of a comfortable position, let's put it that way, by the end of this week, because the opposition to Mars will be over as well. So we will come through it on the other side. So this is a good time to get counseling and to trust that, you know what, maybe I can't be in control of the situation right now. I just need to ask somebody else for advice and a little bit of help. And then we have Venus going into Capricorn on Saturday, which is at the very end of this week. And Venus in Capricorn is really interesting because she doesn't like restriction. She feels really uncomfortable with it. But in her discomfort, she kind of gets real. That's why it's so uncomfortable, because she doesn't get to be luxurious, because she doesn't get to be flippant, you know? She doesn't get to just have a good time and, you know, be spendthrifty. No, she's very conscious of her pocketbook and whether she has or she hasn't got the money, which is actually a really great energy. Actually, I think that this could be, it could impact Christmas and the amount of spending that we actually do around Christmas, because Venus in Capricorn makes us very conservative with how we spend. Now, it could also make us very bougie, which means that we may not be getting as many things, but we want them to be top quality things. So the spend would definitely be there. It's like, I don't want to get a bunch of little gifts. I want to get the big ones. You know, I want to get the ones that are top quality. So definitely still watch your pocketbook, but it's more in the line of Venus would be more prone to spending money on things that are quality, which is actually really good for your business sense and your business mind. So this is a great time to talk about employership, become an employer, build a new business, or really be able to focus on the aspects of like getting down to business and having that solid mind that will think practically and will think in an adult manner, because Venus will be there too, and she'll be very much focused on finances and focused on money. In terms of love and relationships, she's a little bit, she's just way more serious, right? It's not about fun. It's about, are you committed to me? It's about, do you care long term? And it's also about being more practical when it comes to your partner. And instead of getting all crazy and emotional, it's about, okay, the practicalities of how do we make this work? It's a great mind. I actually love that mindset. It's not the most romantic period, but I wrote down in my notes, I really like the energy for romance, because even if there are going to be breakups, and I think around the full moon, since Jupiter is square to Venus and Mercury, Neptune is square to the sun. I think it's almost like we're going to get a wake-up call. All the other crap that was getting in our way, maybe could be egotistical or just fantastical, that was getting in our way. We're going to be able to wake up and actually make decisions that make sense and that are practical and responsible, as well as respectful, because that is really the Capricornian way. So there's just this sense of, even if there are breakups, and I do think that there could be, they would be more amicable. They would be more respectful. They would be more, listen, I go my way, you go your way, because finally we're willing to admit to each other, this just isn't going to work, and it's better to be apart than make each other unhappy. Now, I think in most cases, there's going to be a sort of wake-up call to realize that you shouldn't break up just because things aren't as romantic as they used to be. It's almost like shit just got real. It's not even like the shit hit the fan. It's the shit just got real. It's the time when people stop being nice and start getting real. Because it is. It's like reality hits. And this is the day-to-day with somebody. You know, this is what especially long-term relationships are about. They're not about the romantic flutters and the great sex. They're about, can we work together? Can we build together? So it is a really beautiful energy for actually maybe appreciating somebody in a different way. And that's that duality of that Gemini energy where the moon is going to conjunct Mars, of finding, like, you know, is the relationship breaking down because it's not as exciting as it used to be? Because because, you know, maybe it doesn't have as much over here, but now it's just more practical and we're starting to get more real together. So I think that that doesn't just go for romantic relationships. It's also going to go for all kinds of relationships. It's almost like the honeymoon period is absolutely over, but now we're learning to appreciate different aspects of each other, and those aspects will be those long-term aspects, those committed aspects, those more adult aspects of every situation. So expect that this is going to be a pretty difficult or challenging full moon, where there are going to be a lot of challenges to switching gears from fun and exciting and adventurous and playful and young to committed and practical and mature and serious. And it's never like, yay, you know, it's almost like when you're about to graduate college, right? And you realize, holy shit, I got to get an actual fucking job now, you know, and oh crap, loans are going to be due. Yeah, a lot of those realities, whether you're in college or not, doesn't matter. A lot of those kind of realities are going to be hitting you now. And that's life. But there's also, and this is the blessings that I promised you that I would go over, that beautiful trine between Saturn and Mars. And there, I think Saturn is also sextile to Saturn, Mercury. I wrote everything down and then I didn't. This is also sextile to the Sun. So that means that we are maturing. We're becoming more of an authority in our life. There's a natural sense of maturation to our lives. In other words, we're going to be experiencing events that will make us grow the fuck up. However dramatic or palatable they are, that depends on how things act out in your how things happen in your life, which I encourage you to please leave the comments below, because I would really like to know how all of this is playing out in your life. But this is definitely when we get a real fucking schooling. We get schooled, because that's what Gemini is. Gemini is the teacher. So it's a sense of we about to get schooled. This is a really sobering energy that is going to bring a lot of things into perspective. And I don't think it's life and death. I just think it's childhood and adult. Like, this is the time when we got to put our big boy and big girl panties on and make adult decisions that are not based on our pleasure or are based on our fantasies, or waking up to realize we've been fantasizing this whole time, and recognizing how distracting that is, and not even wanting the distraction anymore, just wanting to get fucking real, get down to business, and, you know, let's start taking these steps forward as mature adults. It doesn't matter what age you are. It matters what stage you were within the development process of your situation, of your romance, of your job, of your career, whatever it is. There's a sense of the universe is taking us into the more adult stage of that now. So it's kind of an eye opener, like something that happens to make us realize, holy shit, you know, I shouldn't be taking things for granted. I shouldn't be taking advantage of things. Maybe I should have listened. You know, I should have listened harder to what people were saying, or how they were thinking about me, or I should have paid attention to, like, all those times mom and dad told me that I, you know, should do this or should do that. It's almost like one of those first times that you realize, holy crap, mom and dad were right, or holy crap, I should have heeded those warnings, or holy crap, I didn't ever think I'd be thinking this way. But it's almost like one of those first times when you hear your parents' words come out of your mouth because you're speaking to your children. It's like in it, even if you don't have children, follow the metaphor. There's just this sense of, bing, the light goes on about maturity, about growing up, about learning, or about wanting to learn, or at least recognizing that I need to learn and I need to start taking things a hell of a lot more seriously than I have been, and crossing over that bridge between childhood and adulthood of what gives me pleasure versus what actually makes me happy, and how I can make things last. So big week, guys. Big week. Anytime there's a transit there's going to be a major energy switch a shift that we'll feel. The fact that there are 2 major transits, the Mercury-Venus transit. Now, the moon transits every 3 days, but the fact that the moon is transiting into Gemini the same time that Mercury is transiting into Capricorn means there's huge energy, boom, shifts on that. I think it's Tuesday that happens, and then the full moon just sort of like unsettles everything. There is going to be an explosion, but because of that trine to Saturn, I think it'll be a controlled explosion or something that we can handle. I'm telling you, it'll be a lot less than it would have been if Mars wasn't in retrograde and if that trine to Saturn did not exist. Right? There's a sense of harmonizing with maturity, harmonizing with adulthood, harmonizing with responsibility, as opposed to opposing it. And that would have worried me a hell of a lot more. But I almost feel like it's the saving grace right now, the fact that Mars is in retrograde, which makes it much less impulsive, much less hot-headed. It actually makes it a lot cooler and able to think about action in a different way because it doesn't have as much energy. So it's like, how do I take action in a different way? Well, trine to Saturn, let's do it long term. Let's commit. Let's not do it all at once. Let's do it day by day. I also think that there could be some, like, if you have had trouble with authority figures or some sort of law or rules in the past, it's almost like something happens that makes you realize why they were so necessary, and it's almost like it shows you a whole new way to look at rules and laws and authority, not necessarily as something to oppose, but finally realizing, oh, that's why they're there. That's why I'm supposed to be paying attention to them. And so I think the more impulsive and the more impractical and the more you push and the more hot-headed you are, I can tell you right now, the more you're really going to fuck up. Whereas if you're sort of willing to learn and be open and respectful to taking on more personal authority, especially, I think that this week can be kind of the day you grow up. It could be, now it doesn't have to be in your whole life, but definitely surrounding a specific incident or a specific aspect of your life. I think that this is really good energy when it comes to romance, especially because both Venus and Mercury are moving into a really solid, mature, steadfast energy that prizes itself on self-control. So even if we have arguments, we will be able to sort of handle ourselves better and be more mature about the situation, especially in how we talk to each other, than if those 2 planets were still in Sagittarius. I can tell you that right now. So there's a lot of things that are actually making me feel that this full moon and this week is really about helping us grow up as painlessly as possible, though there will be aches and pains and challenges and discomforts. It's not going to be destructive. So I really, really love this energy this week. Grounding is really good, especially around the full moon, putting your feet in the dirt, putting your hands, working in the soil. This is really, really going to help you be okay with the solid steps or solid footsteps that you're going to have to plant this week. Please do let me know in the comments below, and please do enjoy all the videos that I will post all week long on Born Without Boundaries Tarot. I'll attach a link above so you can easily get there. Tuesday through Friday, you're going to get all 12 zodiac signs. I hope you enjoy them. I will see you in the videos. And join me here for our daily tarot card readings. It's a general tarot card reading that I do. It's for all zodiac signs. It's for anybody who wants to participate. You do have to be subscribed to participate in the live chats, but that's cool because I would love for you to be subscribed and join in the chat. This is going to be a sobering week. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the video.